Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to be doing a DriverMate webinar here. My name's Ben Cronsberry. I'm on the left there. I'm the account manager for the Midwest region. So if I have met you before, thank you here for joining, and nice to meet all of you that I haven't met. And on the right, Joe Tovar, he's our product manager. He's going to be showing you the demonstration of DriverMate today. And I'll be sure to give him another introduction here once we flip over to the actual demonstration. So for now, I'm going to cover kind of the basics here on DriverMate. So what's so great about it? What is DriverMate? DriverMate's basically a mobile app that the drivers would have in the vehicle with them. They're going to have real-time data pushed out to them onto their tablet or phone on a very easy and intuitive user interface. Does not require a lot of training to get your drivers up to speed with how the application works. So the implementation time is very quick. It is quite affordable. So in today's day and age, the price of tablets and smartphones has drastically been reduced. And because of that, that makes DriverMate a very affordable solution. And then it's very dynamic, can react to many of the day-to-day challenges that transit agencies experience. You know, when same-day changes or revisions are happening, DriverMate's able to capture those and really alert the driver as well as back into dispatch on the certain things that are happening. So DriverMate is basically what we refer to as a digital manifest. It's going to show real-time updates to trip statuses, such as no-shows and different on-time metrics. On the right there, you're going to see a little screenshot of what DriverMate looks like. Joe's going to be walking you through the whole application, but that's kind of a quick preview into what the driver would see. Very easily, you're able to add or remove trips, take trips from one vehicle and put them onto another vehicle very easily and in real time. And it's all automated. So as soon as you assign the trip to the driver, they're getting that trip in real time. They're going to see a little alert alerting them a new trip's been added, and they'll be able to get all of the important information they need to perform that trip. DriverMate really reinforces the whole safety part of the solution. Radio-free communication really allows for the driver to focus on the road and focus on his passengers instead of worrying about the technology that he's using. It's going to reduce and deter them to be playing with it while they're driving because everything will be automated and pushed right to them. They're going to be getting turn-by-turn directions to all of their scheduled activities to reduce their uncertainty. We find this is very helpful when you have new drivers or drivers that aren't too familiar with the city streets or certain areas of the city. These tools are going to allow them to, focus on the road and really reinforce that safety. All that information that they need is going to be at their fingertips. Mobility aids, disability types, all those crucial pieces of data the driver's going to have right in front of them. DriverMate is a great solution, for many types of businesses, both on the public and private side of things. Across the board, like I said earlier, it is quite affordable. It's a consumer-grade tablet, so most of these drivers have used either a tablet or smartphone in the past, so they're used to using these types of platforms. It allows you to be more productive. You can schedule more trips in less time and be able to assign them right away. Like I said earlier, you're able to adapt to different scenarios that are happening throughout the day. Any type of variable that would happen, we've thought of, and we put it into the application. And when it comes down to it, reporting is always, one of the most important things. So you're going to be able to get your on-time compliance reports, all your different productivity reports from the data that's being entered into the application. If you're using paper or manual types of reporting and things, all that data is always subject to, human error and discrepancies. So with an automated tool like DriverMate, your reports are going to be more accurate and have more integrity in the data. You're able to manage your schedules, drivers, and vehicles more efficiently with the tool. And Joe's going to get into the actual nitty-gritty and details of how you would use it. So with that, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Joe if you want to introduce yourself, Joe, and we can begin with the product demonstration.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ben. I guess as Ben mentioned, my name is Joe Tovar, and I'm the Demand Response Product Manager, and I also work with medical as well. And as I'm speaking, I'll be transitioning the screen to show my desktop so we can actually see DriverMate and take a tour of it. But I have been with Trapeze TripSpark for 10 years now, focusing on demand response and also medical transportation. I've been a trainer, I've been a product manager in the school division, and for about the last 7 years I've been working back with demand response with Novus Demand Response, PASS, NEMT, and also a lot of our add-on modules, including DriverMate. So I guess last is I am based in very sunny and very beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. So good morning for those of you who are attending who are on the West Coast. So what we have in front of us now, this is DriverMate that you're seeing on the screen. And I also, for the purposes of today's demonstration, I have Novus Demand Response running in the background as well. And Novus is actually connected live to this mobile data terminal, so we'll be able to see a live view. And I'm also actually mirroring this screen from a tablet that I have sitting next to me. So this is a real live two-way communication that we have in front of us. Obviously, I'm not driving right now. That would probably violate several safety laws. So I'm sitting here with my technology right in front of me. So I guess first off, just wanted to echo some of what Ben had mentioned as well, that DriverMate is an Android-based application, and I'm currently running it on an 8.4-inch tablet sitting next to me. I have done implementations before, and the customers I work with have implemented it on Samsung Galaxy 3 phones, the current Samsung devices. Samsung definitely is the majority of our clients decide to use. Those are the most devices that we have out there, but we're very device agnostic. If you're using Android, I think it's 4.2 or newer, pretty much any Android device we support. You can even have mixed devices if you want. So we really recommend, typically agencies are able to get deals with their local carrier, and definitely search out what works best for you. In my opinion, and I guess everyone has a different opinion, I've seen the 7-inch tablets be the most popular because they seem to be the best form factor for drivers, where it's not as small as a phone and it's not as big as a computer, and it's able to fit plenty of data onto the screen. So what we have in front of us here, this is after the driver's logged in, and we'll take a step back and review the login process and everything there, but I wanted to get right into it and do an overview. So you can see right now and again I'm in Arizona, so it's just after 11 a.m. my time. I have trips on the screen here, and again, if you notice a slight variance in the times, I've been making changes in the background. I have a bunch of settings such that I don't get a lot of pop-ups to interrupt my presentation, so that's why that's there. But right now I'm logged in as a driver, and this is showing the next 2 hours of work for the driver. So you can see pickup, drop-off, times, and again you can show estimated times, scheduled times, address, passenger name, space type, and we also have some things such as passenger photos as well. So again, the whole piece of DriverMate is in the background, whether you're using PASS, NEMT, Novus. Each driver has a manifest assigned to them with work, and for those who don't have DriverMate, you're going through and printing manifests and calling out trips. Well, DriverMate makes all of that digital, so everything that you do in your back-end software solution will be reflected and updated on the tablet and vice versa. Anything the driver does, arrives, performs, vehicle location, messaging, emergencies, everything is two-way synchronization. So a big reduction in paper as far as needing to print out those manifests, and then obviously one of the biggest pieces and one of the biggest benefits of the DriverMate solution is not only real-time data, so you know in real time your schedule adherence, what routes are running late, but also you're getting actual times and actual odometers. So when you're running the NTD report, when you're running your revenue miles, service miles, time metrics, and all of that, you're actually reporting on actual data. You're not needing to go into a trip edit tool or a post data entry tool to enter in that data after the fact. So really the ROI is near instant with this product, in that you have better schedule adherence, you're notified of incidents sooner, and you're getting that actual data. A little bit about the navigation. Now, I wish I was in a room with everyone on this meeting so I could show you a tablet in its physical form, but that's not possible today. So obviously any action that you do, whether it's a long press to pop up a dialog box, and if there's a slight lag, it's because I'm mirroring and using internet here, or whether it's a short press and bringing up additional detail. So it's completely touchscreen, and it also works as far as when you're thinking of mounting options, it works in portrait or landscape mode. So you can see I'm in landscape mode right now, but if I flip my tablet here, it also will flip the orientation. Again, there's a slight lag just because of the internet here, but you can see the orientation is completely open as well. And honestly, a lot of drivers like this because you can see more trips at once. Otherwise, if you flip it the other way, you can see more of the data on a single line. So really, you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do there. Okay, so when we're logged in here to DriverMate, I'm logged in as mobile unit 1803 here. You can see GPS is enabled. When I come in and I go and pick up Sarah Alvarez here, so you can see she's a pickup. There's the address. There's several actions I can take. So the first action is if I want more details, I can short press here. And again, I know some of you may recognize this. You can, if you do have any passenger pictures, you can choose to send the pictures to the MDT. I forgot to change the size of the pictures before this demo, so that's why we have a nice, huge image. I usually recommend sending smaller images that are under 20 kilobytes in size. Any additional data will be available down here for the driver. So if we go back to the trip list here, that was a short press to see additional details and additional information. And we do have customers who are using the picture verification, just especially with passengers with disabilities, and they say there's someone else, you're able to actually verify that you're picking up that passenger. So if I long press, I get a number of options as well, and I'll review these options here. Arrived means that you've actually arrived at the location, so you've actually arrived and you're waiting for that passenger to board, so it'll stamp the actual arrive time back in the software's database. The find location, and I'll go back to the arrive in a second, but the find location actually will bring up Google Maps, and it'll allow you to see the location on the map. And again, it'll take just a second to render here, but you can see this is in Northern California, so you can actually see the location. You can toggle the traffic view if you want to see traffic conditions. And you also can trigger the street view if you actually want to see and I think that actually might be Ben there that we see riding his bike. But you can actually see the location as well. So again, we're taking a lot of the back and forth communication that goes between driver and dispatch, and we're giving the driver not only their manifest digitally, but we're giving them tools to be able to see traffic conditions, see the exact location. And then the other item, if I long press here, is we're also able to get directions. And I'm not going to get directions here because then it's going to route me from Phoenix, Arizona to San Francisco and say I'm going to be about 13 hours late. But we also have the get directions, and the get directions calls, and everyone at this point has pretty much used Google's navigation, I'm sure. So it'll call Google's navigation and provide the driver to turn-by-turn directions from their current GPS location to that pickup. The manifest brings them right back to the manifest in case they click this in, or not click, in case they touch this button in air. Next, we'll do the arrive button. So the arrive button does several things here. What it does, it actually sends a message back to dispatch that says the vehicle has arrived, and it stamps the actual arrive time. You'll also notice on the screen that you have a countdown, and that countdown is a no-show counter. If you have, per your policy, that the driver, once they've arrived, has to wait 5 minutes, has to wait 10 minutes, as soon as they arrive, that countdown starts, and they're not able to either process or request a no-show until that no-show counter has reached 0. So now that that no-show counter has reached 0, if I long press again, you'll notice that I have a no-show option here. And again, I'm watching the presentation. There's a slight lag, so I'm making sure I'm being very deliberate here. But you can see my options are perform the trip. That means the passenger is boarded, and I'm able to move on to my next event on my manifest. No-show. No-show, you have a couple of options. The no-show can either send a message to dispatch down to, and again, whether it's MT, Pass, or Novus, there's two-way messaging, so this is not product specific. It'll either send a no-show request or it'll automatically process the no-show. And one of the things we're looking at doing to be innovative and kind of, a lot of the market feedback I've got recently is even allowing to have a time window where when it's business hours, dispatch has to approve the no-show. But you may have one bus out there at 11 p.m. with no dispatchers in the office. If it's after 10 p.m., automatically process the no-show. And then we also have the cancel at the door option. And again, that option is if you want to allow a differentiation between a no-show or the driver walked up to the door and the passenger said, hey, I can't go, and you want to differentiate that for reporting purposes. I'm going to go ahead and perform this trip. Now, performing this trip, I'm showing you here, and I'm waiting for the screen to transition here on the screen. It's already on my screen, but I can see it's a little bit laggy here. This is the long perform screen. So this is again, you can turn this on or off depending on your policy, but this allows the driver to tweak things if what was said to them wasn't actually what they were expecting. So for example, they were sent an ambulatory, but it was actually a wheelchair passenger. It was a different fare type. There was an additional passenger that weren't expecting, or if you want to do some fare reconciliation, you can actually have the driver type in how much fare they collected, so you can run a reconciliation report at the end of the month to see, are there any short balances. Here's where you can have your nice and large, I guess in my case, image here. And then you'll also notice, and again, I would probably design this a little bit differently as far, not design, I should say. I would have the image a lot smaller, so the signature box would be a lot bigger. But I would have here the ability to capture a signature with NEMT, non-emergency medical transportation. Depending on the funder, depending on the nature of the trip, you could require a signature. And I'll just create some fun little line here for today. You can capture the signature, and that signature will be sent back to the back-end software solution. It'll be stored, and you're actually able to, it's stored on the server, so if you need to include it on a report, you can include it on the report. So quickly stepping back to the software, and again, the focus isn't on any specific software today, so I'm not going to spend much time there. If you've captured any of that data, such as the signature, you'll notice, and again, just showing the Novus example, but you'd have different capabilities in different software. You can see right here I have the signature field, and it's actually captured that signature, so I can view it within the system, and I can include that signature on a report if need be as well. Okay, so coming back into DriverMate, I've arrived and performed that trip, and we've kind of done an overview of a normal action. Well, what other actions can happen? What else can the driver be notified of? What else kind of goes on in normal dispatch, because we know it's not as simple as just what the driver sees is what occurs. If I come in here to dispatch here, and let's say dispatch cancels the trip, and it's a same-day cancellation, anything that is done on software is also reflected on driver mate. So you'll see here I've canceled that trip, and since I've canceled that trip, the driver actually gets a pop-up that says the trip has been canceled or removed by dispatch. Obviously, they can't come in and say, no, you can't cancel that. They are always notified front and center. They can't do anything else in the system. They are always notified that the trip has been canceled or removed by dispatch, and then only what work is still relevant to the driver actually remains on the unit. So you'll notice as soon as they acknowledge that cancellation, the trip disappears from view there. So that's something both from a cancellation standpoint, and then also if a trip was added, you would get a similar message pop up, but it would just be, sorry, I accidentally switched back to the software, but you would get a pop-up that says a trip has been added by dispatch. So again, it's synchronous. And also what's nice is you'll notice I only have work until 1:10 p.m. today. And you may ask, well, where's the pull-in event? Where's where's the rest of the driver's day? We can control how much data is sent to the driver. The driver, right now I have minus 1 hour plus 2 hours. So as new events come within that 2-hour window, in the time I've been talking, it's within 2 hours of 1:10, I should say. That trip has popped up. So it's a rolling time window. And I know, for example, in past, typically a lot of agencies will do it by number of events. So you can see the next 5 events in the list. So you'll always have a running 5 events on the list until it's the end of your route. So that's very nice to be able to handle that as well. Furthermore, all of the software products also have two-way messaging. So I'm from Novus going to come in here and send a message, call base. And again, you can send out bulk messages. You can send out messages just to a certain vehicle. But essentially, you can send a text message, and you'll have a timestamp, again, front and center to them, call base, and they can acknowledge the message. I guess I'm actually touching my tablet. I should be using the mouse here so you can see this is not simulated. This is live communication. And then the driver has a little mailbox here too, and they can access this in a couple of ways. But you can send a CAN message, you can send a text message, which is free form, or you can go back and maybe you didn't have time to read that message, so you just touched OK and you want to come back. You can go back to your incoming messages, which will store the messages that have been sent. Now, most agencies only, and again, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of the agencies I've worked with only allow the CAN messages. That means they're preset messages. They do not allow their drivers to send preform messages. So you can toggle that on and off depending on your policy. If I go into the CAN messages, I just have a few examples here, but you can see it'll show information such as, waiting for trips to be sent, running late, please call me, so on and so forth. So I can basically press the message here, and I can click or touch on the send button, and that message will be sent to dispatch. Just to show how it shows up at Novus, you can see it'll log everything, so I can see I'm logged in as a demo user at 11:24. I sent the call base message, and then vehicle A103 sent at 11:25, waiting for trips to be sent. And after I've reviewed some of these, I actually can come in and mark these as processed, so it'll only keep what's still relevant to me going on here. So again, that's messaging capability. I'm going to go back to the manifest now. One of the key things as well that I think is nice is we've mentioned a lot GPS. So we also have in our software products the ability to see the vehicle on the map, and you can see this driver has decided he's had enough. And this is simulating GPS, and he's decided that he has an aquatic vehicle to go into the water. But in all seriousness, we do receive GPS information, and we'll store the vehicle, the last known speed, the last time we heard from the vehicle, and what some of our agencies do is they'll make this full screen and put it up on a monitor so they'll see their vehicles dancing around. We store that information. You can play back that information. So the GPS information, you'll be able to go back and someone says, hey, your vehicle didn't arrive. You'll know the exact location they were at a certain time. We stamp the coordinates on arrive and perform. And then one thing as well that's very useful is we also can take the vehicle's current location and we can constantly update estimated times. You'll notice here that as I've been doing different tasks, you'll see a time in bold and a time that's not in bold. That's because the time I performed the event, we reprojected what time the driver's actually going to arrive. Since I was a little bit late, these next trips are going to be late. So when you're arriving and performing, you'll be able to see your schedule adherence. And then another thing we can turn on is we can turn on what are called AVL inserts, where on every minute, every 2 minutes, we can actually take where the vehicle's at, insert that position into the schedule temporarily so we can recalculate estimated times without you do anything. So if the bus isn't moving and we're getting the GPS location, it'll start recalculating that, hey, if this trip's going to be running late, the violations will start appearing, and then depending on the software product, we have different dashboards that can show you, what events are projected in the next hour to be late, so you can be ahead of those. You can be proactive instead of just being reactive. So the GPS in of itself provides a huge value in not only knowing where your vehicles are at, updating estimated times, but also keeping an audit trail of where that vehicle has been. And a lot of times GPS is set to be sent every 60 seconds, but that is a configurable interval. So that's something that you can definitely configure. Again, so a lot of functionality, not only on the device, but depending on your software, the backend software platform. We also have covert emergencies. So if you have an emergency, you can trigger a message to be sent, and depending on the software product, it'll handle that differently. In Novus, we have you'll notice in the bottom of your screen, very bottom right of your screen, an exclamation point. If I trigger a covert emergency, that exclamation point turns red. It tells me the vehicle, and it'll audibly beep until someone actually clears it and marks it. So that's another, again, this shouldn't be the only end all if there is an emergency, but it is something that can quickly be triggered that will alert dispatch, and dispatch can be alerted to that. So that's something that, again, is nice to use. Okay. Other things that come up before we get into another topic, and I'm just going to kind of touch on questions that have come up quite frequently, are operation in motion. Just like cell phone use and texting, I don't want my driver, scrolling through their trips as they're driving 50 miles an hour down the road with 5 passengers on board. We do have a no operation in motion setting. Usually we have a threshold where we can set that to like 0.2 miles per hour because there could be a margin of error. So again, it will not allow the driver to actually operate the device while they're in motion. We can boot to this application. So you can actually, when the device powers on, you can boot to this application so they're not closing it and they're going and watching their favorite YouTube videos while they're waiting for trips to be sent. This is you have some controls to make this a business device. So you can, no operation in motion, the device is locked. Typically there are ruggedized devices you can buy. If not, I've had decent luck and heard from customers just buying, an OtterBox Defender over the devices, which I currently have on both my phone and my tablet to help protect them. And then, as far as mounting, one company we use that's popular is RAM Mount, where you can actually easily affix it to the dash and then use a cigarette lighter for power. And then, so there are a lot of, checks and balances within the application, and there are a lot of configuration options as well. do you want to show estimated time or scheduled times? Do you want, for example, do you allow the drivers to perform the event out of order? So can the driver actually come down to this event, and can they actually arrive the event? I have mine set to you arriving out of order. This is not allowed. You may allow it. And then our software, if you do allow it, you can have it so it automatically resequences the event. Is a signature required? That can be something that can be set per funding program. And again, I'm just kind of scratching the surface as far as what driver mate settings you have, but it's not just it's very simple, as Ben said, to roll out, but there are those tweaks that you can make per your operations wishes and policies to make it more catered to what you want it to do. Furthermore, driver mate is a great stepping stone to other add-on modules, and for example, outbound notifications, being able to call, text, email passengers when the bus is imminently set to arrive. Well, if you don't know where the vehicles are, it's going to be hard to actually send an imminent arrival unless you're just guessing. So DriverMate nicely complements our Ripple solution, where since you're getting GPS information, the notification system will know when the bus is 10 minutes away to call Sarah or Naomi and say, hey, the bus is about to arrive. So it definitely is, in my opinion, as far as the various available add-on modules, it's almost always the next logical step after you've installed the base software product. Okay, and then a few other things, just from here, the back button, and again, it depends on the device, but this is the back button, so if you ever want to go back from an action. And then this is the menu button down here. So you can see on the bottom of the screen, it actually will pop up the menu, and this is where you can log out. This is where you can go into your message center. This is where you can go in to renew your manifest. Everything is synchronous, but every once in a while, if you just want to absolutely verify as a driver that your manifest is up to date, the renew manifest basically sends a message to the back-end system saying, hey, resend all of my events just to make sure everything's synced up. And then the setup portion is for system administrators to go into the settings, and that would be disabled for drivers, but that's something that an administrator will have in case they need to get into any of the nitty-gritty settings. Other things I'm just thinking of on DriverMate, it is a self-installer. You don't download it from the Google Play Store, but we do give you an APK file, which takes just a few seconds to install. It's just a quick wizard-based installer, and then DriverMate appears as any other app on the phone. Between DriverMate and the software solution as well, DriverMate does not communicate directly with the backend software solution. It communicates through a proxy. So really the communication goes from a device through a proxy to the software solution, and then the software solution through the proxy. So the proxy is the communication facilitator, typically, the devices are set to an IP address and a port, and Novus or Pass or MT is set to an IP and a port on where proxy resides. So with proxy, we can trace the messages. You'll be able to see, if we're ever doing any troubleshooting, the exact messages that are sent in both directions. And there's an administrative portal to view yesterday's messages, to provide remote settings updates. Just if there's any technical people on the phone, just wanted to give a little bit of a peek behind the scenes as far as some of the kind of the two-way traffic. So I'm going to go ahead and log out here because I wanted to show the login screen because that's something I haven't shown yet. I'll just give it a minute here to actually log out. What it's doing now is it's basically sending a message to the backend software saying, hey, I want to log out. When I log out, you may have noticed while we're waiting for that, and again, I'll wait for the lag, but in the top left-hand corner of my screen here in a second, when the screen catches up, you'll notice that blinking online button. That means the vehicle's online. Now that the driver has logged out, so you can see I've pulled DriverMate back up. This is the login screen. If I were to refresh the dispatch screen, now you can see as it transitions back to the software solution, that is an offline vehicle. So no matter what product using PassMT, Novus, we also will give an online status, and there's offline, online. The device tries to do a hey, are you still there every once in a while, and if it's not, it'll be in what we call a NAC status. So you'll always be able to see kind of the current online status, so you can be confident, and then the various software products have color codes that when I log in, anything in green is in my active dispatch window. And it'll be sent to the vehicle. Once the vehicle has successfully received that, it changes to white. So there's also, depending on the product as well, some visual cues that you can be confident that the driver has the most up-to-date information. Back to DriverMate here. This is the login screen, and you can see up here, this is the MDT ID. Most sites mirror that to whatever their vehicle number is. You can put in a PIN number, you could put in a run, a starting odometer. You can make these fields required or not. Like if a driver has a PIN number, you can make it so they need to authenticate their PIN number, enter in their starting odometer before they start their route. So this is kind of some of the pieces of data that you can tweak in order to require some authentication, so a driver just can't pick up a tablet and log in. They need to know their PIN number. I'm going to try to trigger a login right now, and so really when the driver starts their day, they put in their information, they click the login button, and then essentially it starts sending a message to the software saying, hey, I want to communicate. It sends back and forth communication messages, and once there is a handshake there, it triggers the login process. So you can see here, this is another feature I wanted to show after login. We also support checklist functionality. And the checklist, this is a very simple checklist, but you can choose your own checklists, and you can configure them. You can configure the order. You can configure the right answer. And the checklists are stored in the actual software so you can report on. So, for example, are the fluids okay? Yes. Are the doors, windows, and mirrors okay? Yes. Do the lift lights work? Yes. So you can force the driver to fill this out, and this will be stored after the fact. And not only do we have a login checklist, but you can trigger checklists on certain events. So every time there's a wheelchair pickup, did you verify the lift was in order? Did you secure the passenger properly? So only when there's a wheelchair. And then also you can do a post-trip. As soon as they perform their pull-in, they get a post-trip checklist. So this is a nice setup where you can almost, because I've been to a lot of agencies where you can see these printed pieces of paper. If it meets your needs, you can try to replace that paper with a pre, post, and maybe an in-service checklist as well. You can see Waylon's going to get mad at me, our marketing person, because I just had a notification pop up during the webinar, so I apologize. But now that I've processed the checklist, that's when it sends a message to the backend software querying the trips, and we're back where we started the presentation, which is a list of trips that the driver's going to work through until they've finished their work. So in conclusion, as far as what we've shown, we've shown a tour of DriverMate. I hope it's been shown well enough that you can see it's easy to learn, easy to operate, it can be used on a variety of devices, has a huge return on investment for the reasons I mentioned earlier, and it definitely after you've either at the time of contracting or as you've become comfortable with the back-end software solution, DriverMate and having a mobile computer is almost always the next logical step to improve your operation in a variety of ways. So with that, I think that's all I wanted to get through today. So I guess if there are any questions, feel free to type into the Q&A panel, and I'll be happy to answer the questions that you may have. As Ben mentioned earlier, if there are any questions that you forget later, or if there's anything specific to your operation that you don't want to ask right now, feel free to reach out to Ben or some of the team. And I really thank everyone for coming to today's presentation. So we'll give a minute or two for any questions, and then we'll kind of close from there. If I think of any questions on my own, I'll ask myself, because I think I've tried to go over a lot of the questions that I normally receive.
Great. Thanks, Joe. I actually have a question, if that's all right. I was wondering, so I get this question from people a lot, and they ask me, how long would it take for, drivers or even dispatch to get trained and DriverMate implemented? What would be like a range that would be realistic for most agencies you've seen?
Yeah, no, good question. And I think, obviously there are some factors as far as availability and timing and all that, but I would say on average between 1 to 2 months, and that's 1 to 2 months, as far as install, training, testing, go live. I would say 1 to 2 months on average to go live. But obviously there's factors such as, server, do you have your devices, have they been installed? But typically from contracting, 1 to 2 months. So it's not going to be a 6-month process. And again, it can be as quick or as slow as everyone is available and all the moving pieces are going. So good question.
Well, I was going to say, if people are still thinking of questions to ask, we are going to send out the recording of this webinar. So if there's some, colleagues or team members that weren't able to join today, we'll definitely be sending out the link so you can watch this and even, go back and watch a certain part over and over again if you missed anything. But otherwise, feel free to reach out to your account manager if you do have any further questions. Like I said, there is some resources available on our website, including customer case studies. So those are always nice to see, how our current customers have experienced DriverMate and how they've succeeded with it. So other than that, I think we've covered everything for today. So thank you, Joe, and thank you for all of our attendees. We'll definitely be looking forward to talking to you further about DriverMate.